Jacob Fatu has officially acknowledged Roman Reigns as his tribal chief, something that we knew was most likely going to happen following their tribal combat match at Clash in Italy, but we had to wait a little bit, and there was a little bit of unknown as to whether Jacob was actually going to acknowledge him as his tribal chief because we had to wait until the following episode of Monday Night Raw. But as we saw on Monday Night Raw, Jacob did in fact acknowledge Roman as his tribal chief. So now that begs the question, where does WWE take this next chapter of the Bloodline storyline, and what is next for Jacob Fatu now that he is in this role? So that is obviously the purpose of today's video. We're going to be taking a look at Jacob acknowledging Roman, and we're going to kind of try to predict where this next chapter of the Bloodline storyline could go. But real quickly, before we get too far ahead in the video, I want to say that if you are a WWE fan, consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. That is all we post is WWE related content. So if you are a WWE fan, again, consider subscribing. It's free. You can always change your mind later. So let's talk about what could have been. And we can sit here and go back and forth about what was the right decision or not. One decision being the decision that we got, Roman winning, Jacob acknowledging Roman. We don't know what's going to happen next, but that's the story they're going with. The other decision that could have been made was having Jacob win, and then we would have had what Roman Reigns described as chaos. And I will say, Jacob winning was the far more enticing storyline because I wanted to see what that chaos would have looked like. I wanted to see what Jacob would have done as the tribal chief. And I think we still might one day, but I think that this next chapter has a lot of meat still left on the bone. So, how is this all going to play out? That's obviously the first domino that we need to see fall first, because we've only gotten one segment with Jacob in the bloodline, and we have to see more before we can really try to pick where this story could go. But I am intrigued about what Solo and the MFTs are up to because we saw them at the end of the tribal combat match. Solo apparently got tickets and was standing on the barricade with the rest of the MFTs. I'm curious to see what they run with them because I would assume that they're going to be involved in this storyline in some capacity. Maybe we see a scenario where we see Solo try to talk to Roman and try to tell Roman that Jacob is going to turn on him the same way that Jacob turned on Solo. Or maybe we see a scenario where we see Solo talking with Jacob. And I think that would be kind of interesting because Jacob Fatu feels like he's kind of in that Solo position from the original Bloodline. Only this time, Jacob Fatu isn't going to do what Solo did and just stand there and say nothing and jab a thumb into someone's throat. So, like I said, I am genuinely curious as to what is next with this Bloodline storyline. And again, I do think that the far more enticing option was having Jacob win and being the tribal chief. However, that's not the timeline that we live in. So, realistically, what can they do with the bloodline? Because it feels like that they have kind of done pretty much everything there is to do with the bloodline at this point. And over the course of this entire bloodline storyline, whenever it feels like the story has kind of not necessarily hit the end of the road, but has kind of hit a bit of a lull, they normally incorporate a new member of the family into the bloodline storyline. So maybe somewhere down the line, we do end up getting Zilla Fatu in the mix somewhere, and maybe other members of that family. I don't know, there's so many of them. But again, I just feel like they are kind of running out of options here because we've seen a bloodline civil war. We've seen now 3 tribal combat matches. What else is there to do? I genuinely feel like they need to do something big to kind of pick up the excitement for this next chapter and for the bloodline storyline to maybe not necessarily get back to where it once was because I don't think it will, but get the excitement back in this storyline because I don't think it's necessarily there right now. And look, that's not me saying that there aren't people excited to see this version of the bloodline because there are, and rightfully so, because again, I am really intrigued to see what happens next, but that's the thing, we don't know yet. And with WWE kind of out of options here with the bloodline right now, what do you do? Obviously, I think the focal point is going to be Roman Reigns, and they're gonna try to run back Roman's initial run as the tribal chief, and that's perfectly fine and that's okay. But again, it's just not gonna feel the same. And maybe it will. Maybe Jacob will add a lot more to the bloodline than what Solo did. Or maybe we get Jacob kind of being this kind of double agent in a way where Jacob's working for himself and he's just going to turn on Roman at some point down the line. And all of this is just going to be Jacob trying to burn the bloodline down. That could be an interesting way to kind of build Jacob up even more so than he already has been built up to this point. But I can't just get away from the feeling that this might not work. And I feel that way because of everything that we have gotten since the original Bloodline storyline ended. And I feel like the original Bloodline storyline ended at WrestleMania 40 when Roman lost the title. And obviously, I know that this happened before that match, but we had everything with Jey Uso and him going solo and trying to make a name for himself and get away from the family just for him to come back to the family. And they tried so hard with Jey Uso to make him into a megastar, and it worked for a little bit, and then it didn't, and then they just kept trying it, and they finally realized that it just wasn't going to work. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know what's next for all of the members of the Bloodline. Because right now, the Usos don't particularly feel all that special like they did in the first run of the Bloodline storyline. They don't have the tag team titles anymore. So, what else is there for them to do outside of protecting Roman Reigns, which we've just learned that Roman doesn't need help in his matches anymore? And when I sit here and I look at someone like Jey Uso, I wonder, why is he back with Roman Reigns considering everything that Roman put him through in the first version of the Bloodline storyline? I'm sorry, but for me, that's just something that doesn't make sense. And even more so, Roman still hasn't apologized for all of that yet, and I'm still not going to get over that. And while, yes, we can argue and debate on whether Roman winning was the right decision or not, I need to see more before I can truly get a better feeling of whether it was the right decision or not. Because again, I genuinely don't know what's going to happen next. Because again, it feels like the bloodline has done everything that there is to do. And I'm nervous for Jacob Fatu because this is a guy that WWE has been building up for quite some time now, just for him to be slotted into the same role that Solo Sikoa once filled. So, what's going to be next for Jacob Fatu? Is he gonna be this kind of double agent and he's gonna turn on Roman and the rest of the bloodline and work for himself? Or like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Again, I do think that the more fascinating option would have been Jacob winning against Roman and becoming the tribal chief. And I wanted to see that chaos that Roman talked about. And maybe we will see that down the line someday. I don't really know. But what I do know for right now is that the Bloodline members are Roman Reigns, the Usos, and Jacob Fatu. So this is where I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are on the Bloodline storyline right now. What are your thoughts on Jacob acknowledging Roman, joining the Bloodline, and what do you think happens next? As always, let me know all of your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments section, and while you're down there, swing by the description and click the Linktree link. That is the only link in the description for a reason. That is because it will take you to all of the social media platforms for this channel. I do strongly suggest going and checking out our X page besides YouTube. I am most active over on X. We do updates for Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, and the PLEs. And if you do want some extra content, we are also over on Instagram and TikTok. Over there, you can expect clips from these videos, and it's just another place for me to post when I do upload a video on here to YouTube. So if you do enjoy these videos and you're looking for some extra content, again, Linktree link in the description. It'll take you to wherever you want to go. So with all that said and finally done, that is going to do it for this video here. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button. If you really enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. Again, both are free, both really help out the channel a lot. And of course, if you have made it to this point of the video, I want to say thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your busy day to watch these videos here, because it genuinely does mean the world to me. And as always, stay tuned for more WWE content coming in the future. We'll see you next time.